We're still in chapter 5, installation, and I'm trying to give you more options when it comes to installation. And installation is our first way, first defense against infiltration or transmission. Transmission. So to counteract transmission, we have to deal with installation.
You can't turn on Mr. Slim?
Well, that actually helps the surprising
Yeah. Infiltration.
amount.
Heat exchange, opening. You need an opening for air migration. And cold air gonna fall in. If we open one of those tiles, that'll be a lot of heat loss. So anyways, so these foam panels, probably you see them in walk-in freezers. They're good to fill cavities. They're not that expensive, they're not that cheap, but they're very useful. And if you look at this siding is polyethylene, and there's some kind of foil. So the foil works against radiation, and also this foil sometimes is sprayed with Teflon. Why is that? What does Teflon do?
Nothing sticks to it?
Nothing sticks to it, meaning water will not stick to it, and also it does not grow stuff in it. Food, what?
Food shelves,
yeah,
freezer.
for T-files, yeah. So you want this in the duct system, you want it when it goes outside, whenever there's humidity. So these are some kind of options for panels. Polyethylene and polystyrene, they come at 4x8, you buy them, you cut them, and you put them, you use them as insulation. Also, they are also used for duct. You can make duct with them. You don't see that much in New England. Why? They're very good for cooling, but for heating, over time, they get cooked and crispier, and they don't function very well with heat, and they become also a fire hazard. So it's not very common, but you will see them. They can be wood or aluminum sheathing. They're good for ductwork. You can make a box out of them. You can make tubes. Probably if you go south of Georgia, when it's, or Atlanta, south of Georgia, probably when it's mostly heat and cooling, you'll see a lot of ductwork made out of these. They're very practical over there. Over here it's really difficult because the heat. What is the temperature of the hot air coming out of the furnace? Yes?
180?
180? It's to 120, 130. Doesn't get to 180. I'm talking about hot air. So over time they do fall apart. They're also used for their rigidity. So you can use them as panels. Some doors are made out of these with some kind of reinforcement support. And these are the kind of stuff that you, if you want, you can use in your basement. You put studs and put those panels inside, and you put some covering over here. So this is how they use them as duct, and you can see it's a kind of square facing or rectangular. So they have machines that make grooves in them, and they fold, and they use duct tape on the sides. You can also make connections with them, and they are very convenient. They have actually printers where you actually put those sheets, like papers, and you can put your schematic, what kind of that you want to print it out for you. How does it do that? It will just cut the grooves, and somebody at the other end will come and just fold them and put the duct tape. So it's very convenient because also duct work is very expensive, and there's actually very high demand on sheet metal workers. It's a kind of a dying art. Not a lot of people know how to do duct. So you can buy a lot of stuff already pre-made from Home Depot or Lowe's, but to do actual very good duct with good craftsmanship is really rare. So this is what kind of makes things a little bit easier. So they're convenient, and they have been improved a lot. Before you install something like that, you should check the temperature rating. Make sure it's not going to be combustible, and it can withstand the temperature coming out of that.
That's for Teflon?
Huh?
That's for ductwork or Teflon?
They have so many combinations of it.
Oh.
Just with the labels, they're all different, and the price does make a difference in them. They price different thickness as well. But again, they double work as duct and also as insulation. Because most installation work you have to, most duct work you have to insulate. Otherwise, you're gonna lose temperature along the way. So you're gonna send 120, you end up getting 90 or so. So you don't wanna lose temperature unless that was intentional. This is what it looks like in big warehouse. It can be very huge. And they're very lightweight, so you can hang them with wires, with small steel rods. It's not,
About cleaning might be a problem, huh?
no, so, most of them actually don't require a lot of cleaning because nothing sticks to them. But if
And
they
there's
are-
usually a
huh?
filter, and there's usually a filter.
You,
before it
you
goes
also
in.
a filter that goes in it, and if nothing sticks to them, it's gonna make them really much easier to clean. Actually, you don't have to require cleaning. Most of the new GI galvanized steel, that's also does not require a lot of cleaning, and it depends on also the filtration and the air quality as well. So these are some of that what you get. It's very convenient. What do you think will be some kind of problem with these side of this? Yeah.
Maybe the sizing.
No, actually, this is very good size.
If they're connected.
Could be, but this is some of the pros and cons. They're very excellent in tight areas because again, if you have circular duct, you're gonna lose a lot of areas. Square is really easier to ship, easier to install in tight areas than circular. They have very high R value from 6 to 7. That's really great, and you don't have to put fiberglass around it and put duct tape and have it torn out or get loose. So it's kind of built-in
What are we,
insulation.
what are we talking about right now?
I'm talking about the fiber.
Ductwork, or,
I'm talking about those panels as ductwork.
They make ductwork out of
Out of
those
those
foam
panels.
panels, and that's what that is.
oh,
So, because we were talking about insulation, how sometimes you have to insulate ductwork. These panels can be used to insulate walls and also can be made into duct. And in that way, you don't have to insulate the duct. So, what would be the advantages and disadvantages of using these? So, again, the space, the R value, they also can be used as filling for panels, same kind of material. They can be sandwiched with plastic, steel, or aluminum, depending on the application. So it's very similar to what we have here, except we can have different covering for it. And I've seen some doors actually that are made out of these panels. So you get some kind of wood siding and stick it to polycetri.
Oh, that's what that means, can be used for
Yeah.
filling.
Is that supposed to say steel or aluminum or steel
Or
I think some of that stuff's in those Stanley doors, just the one window for like your garage.
yeah, actually garage doors sometimes have those panels in them. Yeah, you're right. They have
The
some kind of foam.
overhead one
Yeah.
and the.
Yeah. The caveat of those are value goes down with time. What is one of the biggest enemies of a lot of petrochemicals products?
heat.
Heat and what else? UV, ultraviolet. So over time they lose our value. They decompose into a different material. So, and they are relatively new. They haven't been used for a long time, but they are very susceptible to UV and heat. UV value. They're very brittle. So if you put this kind of close to where people are and somebody throws something on or lean on, they will break. They're not as strong as GI steel. They are not weight bearing and they require a lot of support. They're very brittle.
Does
And-
that mean bad?
Huh?
Cabots?
Caveats.
What's that mean?
Cons, not good. Problems, fallbacks. Mechanical damage is an issue. A lot of time I go to places where there's a lot of movement and you can see it being dent and they can break. They're easy to fix, but again, they break easy. They don't withstand a lot of impact. They're combustible. And again, it depends on the type. So we need, before you buy one of those, check the specification and make sure they can withstand certain temperatures. So, everybody got that? Pros and cons? So this is spray insulation. I've seen this actually done, but I don't think it's very common. So this is the same spray foam that you buy in a can, but you can call somebody and they will come and fill in all the cabinets with spray foam. Especially in a place where there's no wiring, there's no pipe, you don't have to do anything. You can just go and spray foam the whole thing like that. It has also a lot of issues and pros and cons. Even though it's very cheap and convenient.
It's
But
not cheap.
Huh?
It's expensive stuff.
Really? How much will it cost?
It's like maybe 2 or 3 times more expensive than like
That's
a regular one.
'Cause they
So
do
why
it
would
by
anybody
the-
do that?
They do it by the square foot. Well,
Yeah.
I think cube foot actually, because it depends on the depth.
I personally do not think it's a good idea. Because now you cover the wood, it's really hard to be turned off, and I think it's just, I don't know, it's maybe it's just convenient.
There's some places you can't get with foam blocks or regular insulation type forms.
So it fills up, but this you could have done with just blocks. You could have filled bats in here all the way. So again, this is an option, but
Is that better insulation?
depends on the thickness, how thick it is. I personally think it's the panels are better because some of them have foam in it. I mean, they have the aluminum foil that reflects, and this can get really messy. So foam, it's polyethylene with a blowing agent, such as CO2 or HCFC. It also has great adhesion, so it sticks really quickly. The material and doesn't move. It has good structural strength, especially if the wall is flimsy. If you have like small panels, you can put that in. But again, you have to put it and you have to even it out and put a panel on it. Also, foam is very good for already built-in wall. So you dig a hole in one area and a hole in the other, and just keep filling until it comes out from the other hole. And you know you filled the entire wall. So as you said, like small cavities and places where you can't get to and you want to insulate. Has good air sealing capacity, so it does not go through it. Good thermal resistance. Our value is per inch, I think it's around 16. That's pretty good. Actually 67, sorry. That's per inch. So the thicker you get it, the better. Foam can has our value up to 3.6 per inch, sorry. 3.6 per inch, so you can go up to like 4 inches, that's going to be 12. So it's not bad at all. But I've seen one actually with 16. How much was it? I think it was 4. R was 4 per inch, so for 4 inches you can get 16, which is very decent. Okay, so this is foam. And again, there are so many options there, and they keep improving all the time. If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they always have new material that you can use for insulation. Facing a barrier. So we always say that we don't want water and moisture to come into contact with our insulation. That's why we use some kind of barrier, either plastic or craft paper. Craft paper is paper mixed with petrochemical products, sometimes it's wax, and it's supposed to prevent water from going through. So with a resistance barrier, you usually put that behind the facing of the house before the insulation. You don't want also air to be moving in and out. And we said again, if the air is moving through the walls, it will make the house more of a fire hazard because it will circulate air as we go through. Also, there are some fire barriers. So if there's a lot of heat, there are some type of barrier that will resist the heat. And probably you'll put that where you have your laundry and your laundry room, washer and dryer behind the stove, a place where there's a lot of heat. Facings, this is the craft paper you put behind the facing. Aluminum foil, it's not actually the same foil it's used in the kitchen, it's different kind of foil, but it's kind of aluminum sheathing. Aluminum has a lot of good properties. Aluminum resists rust better than other material and also reflect radiation and does not let air go through it. It's a little bit pricier, but it's very convenient. White vinyl sheathing, they also put it's being put on the outside and can prevent us from having water coming inside and other stuff in the air. Okay, fire barriers. This is where we place them. So, if you look, this construction here, rock wall, fire barriers. Usually you want that kind of in a big building where you have a boiler. But this is an example of what it looks like. And these barriers and sheets are fire retardants. So this is the kind of layers we want to have in a wall. We have the outside face barrier, some kind of nylon or water resistance sheet, plywood panel for structural strength. We have our studs between those panels, and we have the insulation in the middle. Some insulation usually comes already packed. We don't want the water and moisture to be going through this. And we finally have our drywall. And drywall also can leak some moisture, so you don't want the moisture to go through the insulation. This is retrofitting when something that's not insulated. Let's say, when would you do that? Let's say, for example, you had a room added to a house, and that room was not designed to be heated, now you want it to be heated. So you can go back and retrofit that wall. And as you can see, now we can use foam to fill in the gaps and cavities inside the wall. So you gotta dig holes, fill these cavities, to taking the barrier out, which is very costly and inefficient. So you will fill those cavities one by one in the studs to insulate that wall. And that's when actually the foam rejection becomes very convenient. You can also use cellulose, treated cellulose for that. You also have some kind of grounded up foam, which you can pump as well. However, the problem with foam is that it's very lightweight, it's really hard to pack, and sometimes you're not going to be able to fill the entire cavity. With cellulose, it's kind of heavy and dense, so you can pack it up and can go inside without any problems. Flood insulation. It's floor, not flood, sorry. I'm gonna fix that. I think it's very big. Floor insulation. So this is something you might want to check in your own house now. If you're living in the first floor and you walk on the floor and it's very cold, go in the basement and see if there's some kind of insulation. It's one of the easiest things you can do.
My floor is always freezing because there isn't any.
Yeah. So you might want to do that. It's not that expensive because usually the floor is very exposed because it makes it cold. So you can go in there and stick some cut insulation and use twine to keep it in place. It doesn't have to be very involved. If you want to make it actually more insulated, you can stick instead of twine, you can use plywood or facade, just put it there, or veneer. Make it really well airtight so that it's go through. But usually there are only studs and wood flooring or some kind of panels, which makes it very cold. And it's very uncomfortable, especially on the first floor. So this is a good way to do floor insulation. So this is the recommendation from the Department of Energy in 2013. I think they have updated it. This is what they recommended to have insulation for the house to become mostly kind of efficient, not that bad. So the zones are depending on the location. If you go to this website, they will tell you what I mean by the zone. And again, insulation is not cheap. It costs money to put insulation. So this is what they recommend you to have as insulation. First, you want the R value to be around 30 to 49 in the attic. It's probably called the plumb. And walls, floors, and basements. Let me see if
What do you mean by when you say zone?
it's
Different.
it goes by the region.
So each room has a region.
No, in the country. So for example, you want to insulate more in the attic in New England than Texas, right? Because heat goes up, so you want the heat to go out of the house. Let me check this out and see. So this is the website, and they talk about different kind of techniques for insulation. Recommendation.
Once you put those furring strips over the insulation across the studs, don't you get another air barrier, another air?
Say that again?
Look, I saw the one that had the studs and the insulation in, and then the furring strips going across to hold them in. But,
Yeah.
So that's for a place you wouldn't be putting sheetrock because you'll have an air gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just for like an attic.
Yeah. Okay, we can check that out later. So this is again from the same website that I just showed you, where to insulate and place where you can look. And if you look at it, this is of course it's one area you want to insulate very well. These areas always get very neglected. When it comes to insulation, you lose a lot of heat from that area. And of course, hot air will rise, so this area will be very, very hot, and you will lose a lot of heat from these cavities. The bottom of the porches, the basement, when you insulate the floor, especially if you have a crawl space, you want to be insulated, and the wall. So this is a lot of area where you should look for insulation in a house. Let's look at the Department of Energy here. Hopefully this will work. No. If it's very cold, probably because there's not a lot of insulation and the air is not, the hot air is going outside. So if you look at this website, it's from the Department of Energy. Blown insulation. This is cellulose that you can put in your basement, in your attic, especially if you're not using it. And it gives you whatever is the new stuff in the market and stuff that has been banned. There are a lot of insulation material that has been banned, especially like asbestos and something like that, and certain types of rock wool, facing, foams, and they tell you the most common values of the arm. Well, cellulose. This is new. They use cotton for insulation, sheep wool, straw, hemp. So this looks like it's updated periodically. Tips, let's look at the pictures. This is another way to use that for the
Yes.
basement, for the attic. Okay.
So could you use the combination of like the fiberglass insulation? and-
Yeah, you can use combination. Okay. That's all I have for this installation. If you can go through the book and just skim through the material and what to use for installation, and I'll see you Monday.